I'm male 27 and married to a man 28. He is the love of my life. I had only ever dated women before him, but when I met him, I realized I was bi, and we fell in love. We got married in the fall. It's been almost 4 years. My whole family's from a small town in Texas, a super conservative Catholic area. I was raised there, but Dad got a job in New York City when I was 15. The culture shock was difficult. We went from living in rural Texas to living in an apartment in Manhattan. My parents didn't sell our house in Texas. They allowed our aunt and uncle, who just had their third child, to move in while charging them a small rent. When I came out as bi during college, my brother and dad were very supportive. However, my mom needed some time to accept. The rest of my family reacted poorly at first, but came around. During visits, we stayed with my aunt and uncle at my old house, but because we weren't married, we weren't allowed to share a bed. We didn't argue. We both would rather make peace. Visiting since, instead of staying with my aunt and uncle, we would rent a motel room. During the global issue, we did not visit them. But this summer, my parents and bro decided to go revisit my hometown for 2 weeks and invited my husband and me. I wanted a motel again, but my aunt and uncle insisted my brother, husband, and I stay with them. The first night's sleeping situation was discussed after my cousins went to bed. My aunt and uncle wanted me and bro to take the spare bedroom, my husband on the couch, and all three of us took issue with that. They snapped that we're really not married because we're gay and that they had children in the house. They said that it would be a bad influence on their kids. This hurt my husband's feelings and he started crying and ran out of the room. When my husband ran out, my uncle dared to start laughing. That's when I saw red. I started cussing them out so loudly that my young cousins came to investigate. I told them that if they didn't apologize to my husband immediately, then I was going to tell my dad what just happened, and I was going to make sure to have them kicked out of the house that was still in my parents' name. My bros seconded everything I was saying. They started backtracking and saying that we were still welcome in their house, but we had to follow their rules. I responded that it wasn't really their house. I told them they would be homeless if I had my way. The kids started crying because they heard me say they would all be homeless, so we left. My husband was crying on the porch, and I promised him I would never subject him to that again. I told Dad what happened. To say that my dad was angry would be an understatement. He served them notice of eviction for 60 days. I've been getting calls, texts, and Facebook messages from my family calling me an idiot. I want to know, am I the idiot for allowing my young cousins to end up homeless? Is it fair that they have to pay for what my aunt and uncle said to my husband and me? Not the idiot. I love your dad. He's truly an icon. Your aunt and uncle made their bed so they can go lie in it. They disrespected you and your husband in a home owned by your parents. They should get kicked out, as you're married and have a right to sleep in one bed. Just go no contact with the both of them, as they probably don't add anything good to you or your husband's life. They insisted a hotel was unnecessary and then decided to disregard your marriage. The whole not married so separate rooms thing was clearly an excuse before as well. It's entirely your father's decision who to rent the house to, and you're within your rights to tell him what happened. Just because he reacted as you expected him to doesn't make you an idiot. I'm going with everyone's the idiot here because you shouldn't have been screaming so loud that the kids came down. And once you saw the kids there, you definitely shouldn't have threatened to leave them homeless. Those kids were innocent in all of this. They didn't deserve to be pulled into the drama. You should have just left when you saw them and then had your dad handle it. Disagree. Then why did the aunt and uncle start this drama while their kids were near? I mean, they've been benefiting from cheap rent for what, 12 years? They should have taken the time to save for a house or something. Maybe your dad just used this as an excuse to kick out a freeloading sibling in their family. And if their financial situation is such that this will truly leave them homeless, then they should be smart enough not to be cruel to you. So I own a small store, and my daughter's always been helping around since she was 14, but now she's 18 and keeps asking me to pay her for what she does. As I said earlier, she's always willingly helped me run the store, as I mainly do it all by myself, although I have one part-timer. Since the mother isn't here anymore, she always tries to help me as best she can, But lately, she keeps asking me to pay her because she says that what she does is what an employee would do. So for her, she deserves it. However, I think she doesn't because she arranges the store, cleans it up, and sometimes takes care of checkout. I mean, yes, it's something an employee would be paid for, but since she's my daughter and I already provide for her and pay for all of her living expenses, I don't think that paying her would be right. It would just be spoiling her. I already refused several times, but she doesn't want to give up and keeps sulking and being angry at my answer. She's going to college next year and I'll be paying for it, which is not something every parent does for their child. So she's a bit over the top with this request for me. So am I the idiot? Just to add, I never forced her to work for me. She's the one who asked to work for me, as it allows her to spend more time with me. Working at my store is our little bonding time together. If she wants to quit, I'll allow her, and if she wants to work somewhere else, I would too. I never told her that I wouldn't pay for her college if she stopped working for me, and I constantly pay for anything and everything she asks me for. I give her spending money if she asks. If she wants new clothes or wants to buy something she found on the internet, I would buy it for her. If she asks me to do something with her, I do it. She's my only child and daughter, and I try my best to treat her as best as possible. You are the idiot. She's doing the work of an employee. Inventory, custodial duties, and customer service are a job. Children are not supposed to be your aides by default, just because you house and feed them. Those things are your job as a parent. Heck, it's normal for kids to get an allowance for simple household chores. She's helping you run a store. Give her the proper compensation. You feel proud of yourself for providing your child with housing and fulfilling the bare basic requirements of a parent. Pathetic. Donate to your daughter's work. Or don't be shocked if she eventually finds a new career that pays her, leaving you to fill the vacuum due to your petty behavior. Also, you're paying for her college. Well, who else is going to, since you've monopolized her employable time to serve you in your store without payment, when she could have been doing the same job somewhere else and been getting paid and saving her own money? Going against the grain here, not the idiot. Draw up a list of living expenses that you currently provide her and stop them. She's 18, and you're no longer legally required to do so. Be sure to include college tuition and living expenses in there. Now list how much you would pay her as an employee, tax withholdings, etc. Show her the two balanced scenarios and let her pick which one she wants to choose. My sister, Marie, 29, and her husband, Zach, 40, had their first child, a beautiful baby girl, 2 months ago. They've been pretty nervous parents, so when my husband, Tom, 42, and I, 37, were invited to meet our niece finally, I was thrilled, except I was worried about Tom making an idiot out of himself. You see, Tom and Marie have always had a hard time getting along because they don't agree on nearly anything. Tom has always gotten a kick out of challenging Marie on their differing views because they're both very opinionated. The thing is, to Tom, it's funny to watch Marie react when he says something to provoke her, and Marie always wants to prove his views wrong. But in his head, because she was in grad school for social sciences, she finished right before having her baby, and is knowledgeable about the topics that Tom wants to argue about, Marie shouldn't have a problem debating him because it's her job. In the past, both Tom and Marie have initiated these arguments, and they have each been guilty of taking it too far. But since she got pregnant and had a baby, Marie has calmed down a lot, whereas Tom still tries to bait her into debates about touchy subjects, mainly politics and personal views. This got to a point where Marie blocked him on all social media a few months ago. Before visiting, I asked Tom to be nice to Marie and Zach and not start anything. Tom said that he would try his best. I told him I would be very upset with him if he tried to bait Marie or Zach into an argument. Tom started out the evening pretty strong and kept to himself until it was revealed that Zach would be the one to stay home with their daughter. Then Tom made a comment like, "Oh, I thought Mom was supposed to do that." Zach said that it was pretty misogynistic for Tom to say that, and when Tom asked how, and Zach told him that moms can have careers too, and Marie shouldn't have to give up all the hard work she just did, Tom started on a tangent, and Marie cut him off and told him to either quit or leave because she was done entertaining his nonsense. Tom laughed it off, but it was still very awkward after this. We didn't stay for long, and when we got home, I told Tom that I was done with him embarrassing me and that he's not allowed to join me whenever I visit Marie again, if I'm even invited back. I told him that it doesn't make him look smart when he always insists on having these conversations, that it just makes him look like a butt and me like a fool. Tom said I'm blowing this way out of proportion and that it's not his fault that they got so offended, and that if anything, they were rude to kick him out over his opinion. But Marie didn't do anything to him this time. She didn't snap back at him. She didn't call him names. She just asked him to stop. Am I the idiot? Am I being unreasonable? Not the idiot. Tom sounds like the kind of guy who likes to pick fights just to see the fallout because it's ultimately about control. He likes seeing his effect on people and seeing them get upset over something he says. Adults can control themselves as well. Adults also take responsibility for their actions and try to better themselves without saying, it's their fault they got offended at something I said. This is toddler stuff. Tom needs to grow up and realize that I'm an intellectual and must therefore debate everyone all the time. Stopped being cute in high school. It also sounds like he's intimidated by a woman having more of an education than he has. I get the vibe that he feels like he can school her at something that she's studied for years because he's a man. Also, when it comes to people's personal lifestyle choices, you don't get to have a debate. It's no longer an intellectual exercise. You're just being meddlesome and rude at that point. The dude needs to get over himself and stop making stupid excuses. I can tell you how this story ends. They stop inviting you. You don't see them. A pattern starts where everyone around you's the problem, not your spouse. More people cut you out. Him because he sucks. You for sticking around and by doing so, supporting him. So they cut you out too. Somewhere in there, someone might have an ultimatum talk. I've watched it happen. My heart breaks for them, but she literally couldn't stop herself from arguing and being right, from getting the aha, the last word, the last fact. They lost just about everyone. Honestly, she's the kind of idiot for bringing this idiot to visit her sister postpartum. Tom said he would try his best, which should have been a red flag that the visit wouldn't go well. It amazes me how many folks marry complete idiots. I'm still close to my ex's mother. Whenever I'm having issues with my ex, she usually helps us figure it out. Recently, my son, who's a very young child, has been refusing to go see his dad. He cries and tries to hide whenever he's supposed to leave. My ex is blaming me, but my son told me he doesn't want to go because he doesn't want a new mommy, and his dad's fiance said she would be his mommy the last time he stayed with him. I brought it up to my ex, and he told me it was my fault and that he didn't want this life for our son, but I gave him no choice. The only solution he's offered is that we could be a proper family again, which isn't helping. My own family hasn't been helpful as they agree with my ex, so I felt like the only person I could tell was his mother. I didn't anticipate how angry she would be with him and his fiance, but she's no longer supporting their marriage, and my ex is furious at me. He thinks I twisted the situation to make them look bad, and he accused me of bringing chaos into his life from the start. He also said I was childish because I couldn't solve our issues without involving his mother every single time, and kept taunting me by asking me if I was so scared of him and the truth. Am I the idiot? Whoa, your ex is engaged, yet says you two should be back together? Geez, tell the fiance. Mini problem solved. What a loser. Not the idiot OP, and I'm sorry you're dealing with it. Yeah, I'm sorry. I would totally send the new mommy a text with the information that he's prepared to dump her on a whim. I'm also wondering why your son's reaction is so strong. Getting the mother involved sounds like a bad idea, but she is the grandmother, so it isn't unusual that she would know about his life and worries. Your ex is manipulative and possibly even abusively trying to force you into a corner of being with him again. This behavior is very likely why you broke up with him in the first place and why your ex's mother has to keep acting as a mediator. Dangerous people always call you a coward and childish when you don't want to give them the opportunities to steamroll you or hurt you or bully you. If anything, you need to put more protections and limitations on your interactions with him, not less. Have you explained to your son that a new mommy doesn't mean he's losing you as his mommy, and that he doesn't have to call the new wife mommy? He might not understand that he's not losing you. He can call her bonus mom. May I suggest counseling so a third person with an unbiased opinion can help out? If the ex doesn't go to counseling, I think it's time to talk to a lawyer before something crazy happens, like the ex and his fiancé refusing to give you your son back. My husband and I were at my sister-in-law and brother-in-law's house with our nearly adult son, and we'll call him Adam. My mother-in-law and father-in-law and the nieces and nephew were all there. We were hanging out when my sister-in-law said, "Dinner's almost ready. Kids, wash your hands, and Adam, wash your face too." My son said, "What's that supposed to mean?" He sounded annoyed, but he didn't get loud with her. Sister-in-law said, "You need to wash your face. You're all oily. It's just manners." I told my sister-in-law that my son is old enough to manage his own hygiene and that oily skin is a part of puberty. She started arguing with me and I got annoyed. I could see my son was getting upset. So I stood up and said, "You know what? I'm not really in the mood for a full dinner. I think I'll head home." My son, my husband, and I got up to go. Sister-in-law said I was raising a rude and dirty child, so I told her to go screw herself on the way out the door. She argues that because she has 3 kids to my 1 and I work, she has more experience hours than me, which I think is ridiculous. Obviously, she's angry, and my husband said I ceded the moral high ground with my parting remark. I was just so mad. Who does she think she is? Anyway, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Nah, no way I can call you an idiot. I'm kind of actually applauding you for sticking up for your kid. She was rude, out of line, and tried to embarrass your kid. It's amazing how people with bad manners try to be the manners police. She should go wash her own face. What your sister-in-law said was insensitive and rude on many levels. Your kid is almost an adult and doesn't need cues and reminders like a toddler. She was simply being a witch and embarrassed him. You stood up to her, and good for you. Just a thought. Sister-in-law is getting cheap pharmacy gift baskets full of crappy soaps and badly perfumed bath salts for every Christmas and birthday, since she's so concerned with being clean. The temptation is strong. Honestly, I feel super sorry for her kids if this is how she acts. She's probably going to give them at least a few complexes. And if she's that untrusting of her kids, she'll raise some really good liars, or her kids will fall apart once they're at college or on their own for the first time. You are not the idiot, OP, and your sister-in-law's kids will need serious therapy with such a mean mom.